No, I figured the blender is too loud. I don't know. I'll just leave the mic on and you guys can tell me if the blender is too loud. I didn't mean to freak you out. It's just, it's requiring a lot of so you can see there's like one stick of cinnamon that still hasn't broken. Hey, Ninja, what's going on? Welcome back. Glad to see you back in the chat. Sorry, glad to see you back in the chat. So do you see how it's, doesn't want to break up the last piece of cinnamon and curry leaf there. So let me know. How's it going, Carter? Via Carter is life. Welcome to the chat. I'd be interested to know where you are in the world and what type of stuff you like to cook. We've got a pretty good paste here. I don't want to add any more moisture to it. What do you think? Was that super loud? Ninja's like, I'm deaf. So Punkist, it was saying just throw it in whole, but I think that the recipe makes the assumption that you have a much stronger blender than I have. I broke it into a few pieces, hoping to help out my weak little blender. But obviously that wasn't enough because I've still got some pretty good size chunks in there. And I think part of the issue too is my blender isn't, the blade of it isn't as fine as some others. So I'm actually gonna I think throw it in the food processor instead. It means I'm gonna lose some of my paste, but yeah. Let's see if I grab big old food processor here. I think this will do a better job because the bottom blade is closer to the surface. Sorry, this is not going to be done anytime soon. Okay. Gonna have a tough time trying to minimize the loss of all this stuff because the downside to doing stuff in a blender is it throws it up on the sides of the blender. So I'm going to take off the base here. Pizza? You're a fan of pizza? Can't blame you for that. That's a good one to be a fan of. Do you cook that yourself a lot, or do you just order it out? Carter. That's something we need to do, is make pizza on the stream. So, here was an experiment gone wrong. The recipe calls for making this paste in your blender. But I think if you've got a food processor, we'll see if it works better. I have a feeling the food processor is going to work better for this job. And I'm pretty glad right now that the bottom of my blender comes off, because trying to get this paste out of it otherwise would be a pretty big pain. It's going to be cooked. Like, I think we're going to have to render it down, Punkist. I think we're going to have to render this sauce down. And in a lot of cases, I probably would just leave it since it's not going to be a sauce that goes on top. But since the recipe writer has us using so many whole ingredients, like that curry leaf there, you can see, and the cinnamon, those still aren't broken up. I'm just going to go ahead and try and get that broken down in the food processor. It's a good sauce already, though. That's not locked in place. There we go. Is that down? I think it's down. All right, so this is probably going to be really loud. I won't mute it at first, but tell me if I need to mute it. Is that too loud? That's funny. I remembered this thing being louder than it is, I guess. All right, so we've still got whole chunks of cinnamon in here. And the only thing, I mean, other than like adding in a fresh assortment of cinnamon, and I don't know how much, I could just start with new sticks and grind it up myself. I'm not quite sure why our recipe writer didn't tell us to go ahead and break down the cinnamon, because it really wouldn't have been that much trouble and it would have saved us a lot of time. Because even with the food processor, the cinnamon isn't breaking down. So if you were to make this one yourself, I'd say you could use ground cinnamon or add that instruction to her recipe. I don't know if this will work to try and use the mortar and pestle on this to break it down a bit. You know what? I can smell that star anise in here. I'm just going to toss the larger bits of cinnamon that don't want to break down. And I'm pretty sure that a mortar and pestle only works with dry items. Because I'm finding that the cinnamon doesn't want to break down in here either. All right, so let's scrape this off into our little paste here. food processor definitely throws even more of it up toward the top. It's too bad she wants it to be a fairly thick paste, because I wonder if we added more moisture, if we'd have an easier time of grinding up these ingredients. Yeah, you're right, Lepunkist. It does. It says have a smooth paste. I feel like there's still some pretty large chunks in here. I don't know if you guys can hear it in the broadcast, but I can definitely hear the hard pieces of the cinnamon and the anise breaking up in here. Hopefully they're breaking up. I hope that they're not just getting spun around over and over again. But it does smell really good.